Today's episode might be one of the most important conversations in the US gold sector right now. Integra Resources is not longer just a developer. It's becoming a producer with a real cash flow, a flagship project entering permitting, and one of the strongest exploration pipelines in the Great Basin. If you want to understand how a junior evolves into a future mid-tier gold company, this interview is essential. Stay with us because CEO George Salamis explains exactly how Integra plans to grow, finance, and transform its entire portfolio. Let's begin. Welcome, mining lovers. This is Charlano de Minas, the Spanish podcast dedicated to mining investment, now in English. Do you want to learn? Subscribe. Do you want more content in English? Leave us a comment. The episode is about to start. Welcome to Charlando de Minas, the only Spanish podcast dedicated to mining and commodity investment, today in English. If you are expecting to have this episode in Spanish, don't worry. You will have this interview dubbed into the language of Cervantes. Today, we are covering one of the most interesting stories in the US gold sector. The origins of this company go back to a team whose previous company was acquired by Eldorado Gold in 2007 for more than $600 million. After that sale, the founding team, led by its CEO, who is joining us today, decided to stay together and rebuild the project under a new name. The goal was simple but ambitious, to build a long-life mining platform focused on gold and silver deposits in the Great Basin, one of the most metal-rich and mining-friendly regions in the world. With that vision, the company acquires an asset with a strong history, proven mineralization, and a significant growth potential. Over the years, the company has developed a very clear strategy: combine a cash-flowing producing asset with the two large developed projects that could turn the company into a mid-tier producer with projected production above 250,000 ounces per year. For those who don't know yet what we are talking about, we are speaking with Integra Resources, listed on the Toronto under ITR and the New York Exchange under ITRGR. And we are joined by their CEO, George Salamis. Hi, George. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Madeu, thank you so much for having me on your show. First time, I'm really excited.
Perfect. To start, maybe, could you tell us who you are and talk a bit about your career and your experience?
Sure, for sure. So my title with Integra Resources is President and CEO. I am, however, a geologist by background and worked for more than 30 years in the mining business, both for major mining companies in the first half of my career and then sort of junior mining companies developing assets in the second half of my career. So some experience on both ends of the spectrum there.
And maybe we can start with the story of Integra Resources, no? From the beginning, from which was Integra Gold story and how did it evolve from one single asset from the beginning and what is today that it's a multi-asset company.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, our vision at Integra Gold, which is what you mentioned, that was the subject of the takeover in 2017, is largely the same as it is now for Integra Resources. And so our focus was on, or it currently is on, precious metals, obviously. Our focus in both companies was, tier one low risk jurisdictions, places where it's easy to develop and operate, where there's a rule of law. Focus on mines that have produced in the past that perhaps were shut down for reasons not related to sort of technical reasons, if you will. Nothing wrong with the ore deposits, but rather closed, or shut down due to low gold and silver prices. So that was the focus in Integra Gold, and it's certainly the focus in Integra Resources, just two different jurisdictions. So the strategy took us, from being an asset developer to an actual gold producer, as you mentioned at the top of your presentation, with production now currently in the United States, and that production funds our development on our other advanced stage assets and gold silver projects, and also in the Western U.S.
And maybe what is the main objective of Integra Resources?
Yeah, the entire team at Integra and the board is fully aligned with this strategy. It's to basically grow Integra as a junior producer into a mid-tier producer. And right now, I think the acceptance in our industry is that a mid-tier is sort of 300,000 ounces of production or more, and that's squarely what we're focused on becoming in the next few years here.
Perfect. Then let's talk about the projects, because there is a lot going on the company, and maybe we can start with the Delamar Project, that it's basically Integra flagship project. It's the once more advanced and attractive heap leach projects in the States. Was historically operated by Kinross, and Delamar has more than 5 million ounces of resources and already has a strong technical studies, including a PFS projecting around 176,000 gold equivalent ounces per year for at least 8 years. But the real game changer was the addition of over 42 million tons of historical stockpiles, which is now viable for heap leach. This obviously reduces costs, extends mine life, and strengthens the project economics. Integra in this project has also made excellent social and regulatory progress. They signed a pioneer agreement making the community an active participant of the future planning and operations. With the mine plan operations declared complete and the NEPA on their way, Delamar is just entering its decisive stage towards constructions. Once in production, it should double the group output and make Integra transition into this true mid-tier producer. If we analyze a little bit the PFS, the study was done with a low commodity prices respect what it's today. It was $1,700 for gold, 21.5 for silver for base case. The initial capex was 282 million for stage 1 and stage 2, and the after-tax return was 27%, with a very low all-include sustaining cost, which was below $1,000 and roughly a 16-year mine life. Those were very strong numbers at that time, but today gold and silver prices are much higher. Then, are you planning to update this PFS? And if so, how much do you think that the numbers will increase?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes, we are updating that now. In fact, we're weeks away from updating the PFS and delivering a feasibility study before Christmas. The entire company is focused on that right now, which is why we're also busy towards the end of the year. We've been working on this study for now, 18 months, essentially, almost 2 years. And it's going to be a much more detailed and precise study, obviously, because it's a feasibility study. So you have to have a higher level of precision, more work to support the data and your economic premises, right? That goes into a feasibility relative to a PFS. We expect some changes from PFS to FS, but they're positive ones in the new study. So, for example, you'll see different means of power generation on the site. You'll see a different breakdown of mining at Florida Mountain versus Delamar, for example. You'll see a scheduling change in that. All of these changes are designed to basically enhance the economics and de-risk it, because these changes will make our economic premise on development and production easier to execute on. So they're all positive changes, and we expect great things from this study, obviously.
I know that the project is still not on, no, and you probably cannot disclose a lot of things from that. But can you give us a little bit of rough numbers in a way that it's the return much higher what is today? It has increased, for example, the resources that you are applying because you are using a much higher gold and silver prices. How the numbers will look like, or how they will move around?
So maybe I'll start with what hasn't changed, I guess, from
Okay.
PFS to FS, and what hasn't changed is the production profile is largely speaking going to be the same for the first 10 years. That 120 to 140,000 ounces a year, that's going to remain the same. So the mining rate, the processing rate is going to remain the same in that respect. What's different is obviously is the gold price and the silver price, obviously. And I should probably just go sideways on this discussion to discuss silver, because there's a lot of silver at Delamar. In fact, Delamar, currently is I believe it's the second largest undeveloped silver deposit in the U.S. Sadly, the heap leach doesn't recover a lot of silver. So we'll be looking at that once the oxide heap leach is in production, processing sulfide. Somebody's going to look at that at some stage. But this study that's coming out soon is going to focus strictly on the oxide heap leach resources that are there, and nothing else for now. And the reason why we're focusing on the oxide is that it costs less to develop than the sulfide.
Exactly.
It's easier to develop on. It's easier to permit an oxide production or producing mine in the U.S. relative to a sulfide producing mine in the U.S. And so for those reasons, we chose to stick to the oxide heap leach. From a permitting perspective, we've had pretty detailed discussions, and we can talk about that if you want.
We can discuss a little bit later.
Yeah.
Then, because this was a question afterwards, I mean, you said that you will be focusing now on oxide, and this feasibility study, it will be only focused in this oxide, but it's true that you have as well sulfide mineralization. Then it's something that it will come afterwards, meaning that you already said that your first 10 years it will remain the same than the PFS that you already published. Then you already have a mine plan, you already have everything in place. Obviously, because prices of the commodities are higher, I mean, your numbers will be much better on the returns and everything. But then there will be an intention to work with this sulfide, the remaining sulfide mineralization that stays on the heap leach, or it's something that you are not considering to do at all?
It's something that we're not considering in this study. However,
okay.
I'm going to guess that the mine manager, once we're permitted and developed and in production, many years into the oxide processing that we're going to be doing there, per the feasibility study, we'll start to look at developing that sulfide. That sulfide material, although it is refractory, in some cases not very refractory, in some cases very refractory. At current gold and silver prices, I think it makes a lot of sense to look at those, especially for the silver and the silver recovery. Again, on a recovered basis, this could be one of the largest silver producers in the future from that sulfide. But again, these are things that we'll look at once we're well into the oxide heap leach operation.
The stockpiles that I have here, and I don't know if the number is correct, but I have that you have around 42, 43 million of tons of stockpiles in measured and indicated. They are all already included in the PFS, or it will be included in the feasibility study, and how these improve or not the economics of the project.
Yeah. So to answer your, I believe it was your second question, the stockpiles were not included in the PFS, and again, maybe just another good sort of sideways path to discuss low grade gold stockpiles, and we're seeing this at Florida Canyon as well, and many other miners in the U.S. and in fact around the world are seeing that, material that was put to one side previously because it wasn't economic to mine at lower gold and silver prices, in today's prices is very economic. And so we'll be including some of that material, as you said, that 42 million tons, into this current feasibility study. And the net effect of that is it's going to add mine life. We had a mine life that was 7.5 or 8 years in the pre-feasibility study. I think you'll see a mine life now that is 10 years plus. That material as well in the PFS study, because it had to be moved, it counted as a cost in that study, both largely speaking an operating cost or OPEX. Now that material has significant benefit and can generate cash flow in addition to the in situ ore that's there. So it'll be a big benefit in the upcoming study.
Great, great. Where we are exactly in the permitting process? You said that we can discuss a little bit on detail, because obviously you need all of these permissions on time towards construction. Then how we are or how is the process evolving?
Yeah, so we've spent so much time and money on permitting for the last 5 years. In my career, I've worked on many development scenarios. This would be an order of magnitude more money spent on permitting than I've ever experienced in my career, but it's worth it because it has to be done properly. And so we've done many years of baseline study work. And I think, it's a good time to communicate to our shareholders right now, with questions surrounding why did it take so long to finish our feasibility study? And the reason why it took so long is that we had to do the feasibility study, which involved a lot of engineering work, at the same time determine what is the optimal footprint of the mining operation that will get this project permitted. So we had to start with something that was a large development scenario that involved a lot of surface disturbance, and over the course of doing the feasibility study, try our best to shrink that down to avoid surface disturbance, and which is a key piece in the NEPA permitting process. And so that's why the study took the time that it took, because we had to constantly have an iterative process of where are we at with the engineering, how much more can we reduce the site disturbance, and get this project to a point where it's ready to be permitted. So the good news is that it's now ready to be permitted. We submitted our mine plan of operations very recently, and it was approved by the Bureau of Land Management, which is kind of the lead federal regulator that we're dealing with in the U.S. And with respect to permitting now, we're currently in very detailed discussions with the BLM regarding our defined permitting timeline. In other words, as you talked about in the question, the NEPA process, which is a defined process from an environmental perspective, or from a permitting perspective. And in years past, we were told the NEPA process was, once you enter it, expect 2 to 3 years of permitting timeline, and that is public consultation, that is draft EIS leading to a final EIS study. Because this current political administration in the U.S. wants to go faster, we're now considering timelines and not skipping steps, but timelines that are much quicker than what we were quoted previously. So I would expect sometime in January to have that defined timeline, and I would expect that it'll very likely look shorter than we expected. So I guess stay tuned.
What was in the past was 2 to 3 years, let's say, with the last administration, but with this one, this can be shorter, maybe into 1.5 or 2, something like that. But this means
Correct.
that maybe we can have an authorized permit for 2028 or last of 2027, something like that.
It could very well be. We're certainly now considering the fact that permit is going to come quicker. The record of decision will come quicker. And again, none of this involves skipping any steps whatsoever, but just that defined process will be compressed, if you will. Certain things will happen quicker. So yes, that sounds reasonable.
Let's talk about the agreement with the tribe and what this means for permitting, economics, and community relations. Maybe if you can explain what you have done, that it's something that seems remarkable, and what this contributes to the permitting and everything with the project.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that we've spent, again, a lot of time working on. Our dialogue with the indigenous tribes of Idaho and Nevada started, about 5 years ago, at least. And it was a process of getting to know them getting to know us, and then making them part of the discussion with respect to, this is how we plan to develop the mine. What do you think? And, back and forth, involving tribal members, if you will, just to participate in even some of the baseline studies that we're doing, specifically with respect to sort of the cultural aspects of what's going on at Delamar. And so we did sign this agreement, and it's a first of its kind in the United States. There's no question. What this agreement does is it aligns their interests, the tribe's interests, with Integra's interests, and it does that by respecting and recognizing their rights over their traditional lands. That's the starting point, right? We recognize that this is their land, but it also makes them part of every decision process, which will lead to the development and production at Delamar. And you ask what's the impact with respect to permitting? It's pretty simple. If we have the Shoshone-Paiute tribe under a form of an agreement on our side of the table, working with us, we believe there'll be fewer barriers to the project from a permitting perspective. In exchange, obviously, they'll see the benefits from this mine being built, which goes without saying, and that's the way it should be. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do in all aspects. So we're very proud of this agreement that we've signed with.
Then maybe we can talk a little bit about constructions, and when do you think the construction will be, and which are the financial options that you think that you could have? Because if it's 2027 and you have done all of this terrific job, for the permitting, then I will be guessing that 2027, once the permitting is on, you all should be almost ready for construction. Then you should have all the finance ready and everything ready to just start to shovel on. Then maybe how you envisage in this sort of timeline, when the construction could start, how long it could take, and which are for you the best financial options that you can have, or do you think that could be more attractive one?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, the feasibility itself, study itself, will reveal a lot of that. You'll see the schedule from a development and production perspective there, and you're quite right. We need to position ourselves to be ready to put a shovel in the ground in 2028. And that's both from a technical perspective, so there's a lot more detailed engineering that needs to be done to get the project ready to be at that stage. There's certain things we can do in advance of receiving our final permit to de-risk that whole process, getting things done earlier. I think you'll see that there's some of that work can be done in advance of the record of decision or the final permit.
For example, which things can be done?
Yeah, there's certain earthworks that can be done. There's certain equipment that can be purchased. Again, you'll see. I don't want to steal the thunder from my engineers. They'll be very upset with me if I talk too much about these things. But they're pretty exciting things, and they're things that we can get started on, perhaps in advance of a record of decision. So you'll see that all laid out in the feasibility study. Also, from an economic perspective, another interesting thing here is you're quite right. We have to be ready from a financial perspective to finance this project in, call it 2028. There's certain things we can do there as well in advance. We can accumulate as much cash in our treasury from Florida Canyon production so as to minimize the need for project financing. We'll still have a need for project financing, but it will be less now as a result of having production that we can point to somewhere else. It will lower our cost of capital. So these are all things that we're thinking about right now.
Perfect. Then maybe we can talk now about Florida Canyon. No,
Sure.
It's probably the operational heart of today of Integra. It's a heap leach mine in Nevada that has produced intermittently since the 80s. Integra acquired in 2024. and it quickly became the group's cash flow engine. Today, Florida Canyon produces between 70,000 and 75,000 ounces of gold per year. And probably mostly importantly, it has a clear path for expansion and optimization. The company is revising aggressively and to modernize the mine infrastructure, upgrade the fleet, expand leach pads, and improve both mine planning and metallurgical recoveries. But the biggest upsides come from three fronts from our point of view. The large, low-grade historical dams, which can be leach profitable at current gold prices. The areas between the pits, which show a strong mineralization, and the infill drilling, which could significantly extend the mine life of Florida Canyon. Florida Canyon is not only profitable today, it could grow in the coming years and provide a solid base to fund developments across the company. Maybe we can start. I know that, for example, the all-include sustaining costs that you have today, they are really high because you have to spend a lot of money modernizing the infrastructure, and things are starting to get going. But I think that it's really good that that Integra could have this cash flow machine, to fund projects, to fund development, and all of this. And it's something that I think that Rick Rule said in the past, and I completely agree that it's something that you guys needed, because everything looks different with a few millions coming on every month. Maybe you can start with what are the improvements and optimizations that are being implemented on Florida Canyon, and which will be the effect of those?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much that we're doing on so many different avenues to not only optimize but potentially grow the production scenario and reduce costs. The first thing that we have to do there is catch up on the what I would call underinvestment on the asset that mine has experienced. That practically speaking, that mine has not had any money spent on upgrading it or let alone maintaining it for 10 or 15 years. And so there's a certain amount of what I call catch up to be done on that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now. We're replacing some of the haulage fleet capacity with some new trucks. So that costs money, but it's money well spent because it'll position us well in the future. Certain things that we're looking at from a sequence of mining perspective to optimize the ore body better, quite right. Those will help. And to your point, we're also spending a fair amount of money now drilling out different parts of the ore bodies that were either poorly understood or under-drilled, or a combination of both. And so the expectation with that sort of drilling, plus the drilling of the low-grade, again, this word that we used in the context of Delamar, the low-grade stockpile material, which is now economic, that we believe will lead to a much longer mine life on Florida Canyon relative to what is in the current 43-101 report, which is why we're doing this study now. We're redoing the feasibility study now at Florida Canyon. And that feasibility study to come out sometime mid-year 2026 will look at what does the combination of all of these optimizations look like from an economic perspective, obviously at higher gold prices in the context of Florida Canyon. And we think that that's going to have a materially positive effect on the project economics, much longer mine life to Florida Canyon than everyone would expect. Personally, as a geologist, I've got a pretty high conviction rate that we will significantly extend that mine life through what we're doing right now.
Okay. I know, again, that if there is a PFS or a feasibility study coming next year, you will not really comment on numbers, and you said that you are positive. Then just make a guess. In which numbers you will be happy, no? With how many years of extension of the mine life you will be happy in long-term, all-include sustaining costs, you will be happy with this mine?
So I would be happy if the current 5.5 year mine life extends to something like 8 or 9 years. I would be very happy with that. I would be happy if we could, over that period of time, maintain the production at 70 to 75, perhaps even 80,000 ounces a year, or marginally better. I would be very happy with that as well. And in terms of all-in sustaining costs, I can't give you a specific aiming mark, but certainly, we would love to bring those costs down from where they are. And bear in mind, the costs are where they are right now is because we're reinvesting in what I call
Of
putting the
course.
catch-up, right? But eventually, that catch-up will end, right? We'll be through a big piece of the catch-up on capital expenditures through the midpoint of next year. So I would expect those AISC costs to come down.
Yeah, because the cash cost, I think that it's around 1,800. Then maybe after a few more investments, it could come closer to this number, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just to kind of just in rough numbers, we're talking here.
Yeah, of course.
So so this year we're spending about $65 million in upgrading the mine, right? Mostly through physical sort of equipment, haulage equipment, etc. Some of that is as well exploration related. If you look at that 60 in the context of what does it cost to run this mine on a steady state perspective without having these items to catch up on, the number is about 30 or $35 million. So look at a scenario where the mine costs 30 to $35 million a year to run. That would drop if that is the case, when that does become the case, it drops our all-in sustaining costs materially, $200-$300. So just there alone, there's an opportunity. I can't give out any numbers yet. I
Yeah,
think the
yeah,
feasibility study will show that. It'll be a really good study.
perfect. I mean, in the last year, the stock has rocket. No, I mean it has grown a lot. It has performed really well. Probably really helpful with gold and silver price that has been in all-time high for most of the year. Now silver doing extremely well. Um, But it's true that the story of the company has completely changed with Florida Canyon, because now you are a producer. Now you can sort of finance your developing stories, and everything becomes easier without the need of having to raise every year, right? Then do you think that the market start to realize that Integra Resources is not just a developer or just an explorer, that it's now a small producer that can grow to this mid-tier? Start to recognizing all of this re-rating and changing of role?
Yes, I think that recognition is happening now. We still have a ways to go. I think what we had to demonstrate to our investors was, consistent quarter over quarter production, something that was relatively speaking predictable. It on a mining operation that had a lot of question marks attached to it from the past. Obviously, the higher gold prices make up for a lot of the sins of the past, if you will. So that's helping us out. But I think that demonstration does, yes, Florida Canyon can produce 70,000 ounces a year. That we're showing that now. So what that means is we're afforded more of a PNAV multiple as we convince our shareholders that this is real, and it will be ongoing for a long time, many years. I think that's step one. I think step two is attributing value to projects like Delamar and Nevada North. But let's talk about Delamar, for example. Delamar is going to have a very big NPV or NAV number attached to it when it comes out, obviously at current gold and silver prices. But I think the investment community has looked at not just Delamar, but any project in the development stage as being, okay, well, call us when you're going to get it, when you're close to permitting,
Yeah.
And we had these conversations with our investors 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yes, we'll be permitted one day. Well, that one day for us now is not far from now. We're one of the most advanced projects in the U.S. You mentioned it in the discussion earlier on. One of the most advanced stage projects that's in permitting in the U.S. right now. And so I think the realization that, hey, this project is not only real, it's solid economically, but it's also not long before it gets its permits. We'll start to see more value accrete to the company on that basis. And I think that will be the next lift for the company.
Now just another question came to my mind because we have seen a lot of M&A and a lot of big players buying out a lot of others in the precious metal space. It's true that you are, like a really good project in the last stage of the permitting, done everything all right, and now you are also a producer. This means that you are a really good guy for the big ones. Has anyone come and ask if Delamar or if the company doesn't sell, or have anyone approach?
Well, I mean, first off, we're not actively trying to sell the company. Obviously, we're all really excited by what's happened to this company in our transition from developer to producer, and we're very excited by the projects that we have in the pipeline that can get us to that mid-tier production mark as a start. So none of us really want to sell this project at all. Contrary to other projects that I've been involved in the past in other companies where it's been, we're not really interested in bringing this all the way to production. On this one, we are, because we've come this far and it's attractive to us, right?
Yeah.
So, but are there companies looking at us? We've got CAs signed with companies who are looking, wanting updates on what's going on. For sure, every developer in the U.S. has the same, so it's kind of nothing new from our perspective. We keep people updated on the progress. I'm just going to make a comment on that. I mentioned half of my career was spent working for the major mining companies and specifically on project evaluations. And the tactic when I worked for these majors was, if we were looking at somebody like an Integra or somebody who owned a Delamar project, we would purposefully wait to see what the reception would be from a permitting perspective before we got really serious about taking a project over. Major mining companies can afford to pay up for a project once it's de-risked, and I'm sure there's a lot of that going on right now, not just with Integra, but other companies in the U.S. and in fact all over the world. Let the junior do all the heavy lifting from a de-risking perspective, and then we'll buy you. But again, we're not actively shopping this asset at all. We've got a company to build here.
Perfect. Then let's talk about the third growth pillar of Integra. It's Nevada North, which include Wildcat and Mountain View deposits that I actually started to know about Integra because I was a shareholder of Millennium Precious Metals, and you guys buy out. Then there is these two oxide epidermal systems which are ideal as well for heap leaching with a very strong preliminary economics. They are based on the PA alone in Nevada North, show potential for around 1,800 ounces per year for over 13 years with a low initial capex and solid margins. But the most exciting part, I guess, that it's all the exploration upside that is still on these projects. At Wildcat, for example, only 5 acres have been drilled out of 17,000 acres of the land package, with surface samples returning to 30 grams per ton for gold. Integra is already working on expanded exploration permit to go from 5 to more than 400 acres, which could unlock the true potential of the district. Maybe if you could give us an overview of Nevada North, of the two projects, and what this means for the company.
Yeah, for sure. I look back at the Millennial acquisition from an asset acquisition perspective. It was a great acquisition for us, and it's a great project. Our view of that project actually changed for the better, if you will, once we acquired Florida Canyon, because Florida Canyon is only 25 kilometers away.
Yeah.
25 miles. Sorry. So what changed for us there is now we've got an operating team at Florida Canyon who have been in the business of heap leaching for 20, 25 years, just down the road, literally from Wildcat in Nevada North. How can we leverage that expertise at Florida Canyon to accelerate a project like Nevada North and specifically Wildcat? And so what you'll see in the upcoming years, we have to take this project from PEA stage, and you mentioned that PEA in the lead up to the question. We need to take the project from PEA to the pre-feasibility level, or PFS, and show what the economics look like now. Show what the economics look like now in light of the fact that we own an active mining operation that's just 25 miles away. What do the economics look like? But there's a lot of work to be done before we get there. We're drilling actively now out there. We're doing some hydrogeological drilling out there to define what the water treatment, if any, that we need to do out there, what that will be involved in the PFS study. There's geotechnical drilling to do. There's some exploration to do to upgrade some of the resources that are at an inferred stage to a measured and indicated stage. Although I should say, about 1 million ounces of Nevada North is in an indicated category, so it doesn't involve a lot of upgrading, but a lot of work to get there.
Of course.
But now the beauty is we have cash flow from Florida Canyon that's going to support that. We don't have to come back to the market, as you said, every year to finance these plans. We have a built-in means of financing them, which is a non-dilutive strategy to get us there, which is great. Plus the fact that we've got all these people who know what they're doing, only 25 miles away from Nevada North, is a huge benefit.
You said, no, you are only 25 miles away, one project from another. This means that, or do you believe that could be synergies in terms of infrastructure for both projects at the same time?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, the easy one is the ADR plant, right? The kind of the final step of extracting gold from a heap leach operation. We would certainly be able to share that. And there are potentially other synergies. Maybe, it's a question of once equipment reaches a certain sort of stage of life at Florida Canyon, maybe it gets transferred to Nevada North, only 25 miles away. Like, who knows? The site management, maybe that could be based out of Florida Canyon. Who knows? All these questions will be answered in the PFS.
Of course.
Here.
You said it's coming this year as well, in 2026?
Yes. So our aiming mark for the PFS is the end of 2026. Correct.
Well, then you will have on 2026 feasibility study of Florida Canyon. You will have 2026 PFS of Nevada North, and maybe 2027 the permit for Delamar. This is how it looks like.
It sounds like a lot of work when you.
Yeah, it sounds. And I will be guessing that the maybe first half of 2026, then it will be a lot of exploration results and news of Nevada North.
Exploration, certainly not so much at Nevada North over the winter from an exploration perspective, because it's a difficult project to drill during the winter month. But expect exploration to be conducted at Florida Canyon, and an ongoing kind of release of those gold results, because we've got big plans to keep drilling out at Florida Canyon, and it's paying what I would call dividends to us in terms of showing growth, expansion potential, right? So exploration will be conducted certainly at Florida Canyon. Exploration at Nevada North and Wildcat will come during the summer months of next year, when it's easier to do.
Okay, but then this exploration will be included on the feasibility, or the feasibility that you are doing, it's only including the old data that you already have?
With respect to Florida Canyon or Nevada North?
No, with Nevada North.
Nevada North, yeah. So no, I would expect that the exploration that we're going to be doing outside of the resource areas, and we do have some targets to be drilled there, lots of targets, because as you said, I mean, we've been drilling this on a 5-acre, what we call a 5-acre notice. So yeah, we'll be doing some exploration at Wildcat and Nevada North for sure. But very likely that exploration won't get included in the form of resource growth into the PFS for 2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it'll allow us to point to the upside.
No, of course. Then what this really means is that you have a lot of new flows coming on the next years, not only in terms of feasibility studies that will demonstrate the potential of the producing project that you have, but as well the blue sky that it means the Nevada North, but as well some other results from exploration that will fall outside of these studies, which means that everything that we see, it probably could be further improved with all of these explorations that you guys are financing with all the production. Cool. I mean, for me, I mean, it's a really good project in general with Integra. Exactly for this, I really like the companies that have, even if it's a small production or an all mine or these stockpiles or whatever that produce a current cash flow and reduces the need of financing, or that can allow to pay for exploration and things like that. And this is exactly what is Integra today, a project that it's finance itself, the different exploration and all the developing that you have, and becoming one of the mid-tier producers in the US. Maybe you can tell us, how do you believe that the market is comparing the or it's evaluating the company? You said that it's starting with tier rating, but it's true that over the next years you will have not only a production or a small production, but you will have permitting, you will have feasibility study. Then all of these things should re-risk and at the same time should re-rate the company, right?
Correct, Amadeo. Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, we started the year, even though we started the year as a producer this year, we were still being valued as a development company. And it's taken, 10 months, 11 months to get to this point where people are starting to realize, okay, and Integra is not just a developing gold producer, it's actually producing gold and actually making excellent cash flows. So it's taken that some time to get there. And I think 2026 will continue to close that gap towards the final realization from our shareholders that Integra is the real deal, and it's here to stay from a production perspective. But all these other pieces that you mentioned from a de-risking perspective in the near term at Delamar will certainly figure in our re-evaluation as well. That this realization by our shareholders that, hey, Delamar is really not too far off from actually producing gold. It's one of the few projects in the U.S. that's that close to the finish line. I think that's going to be another big piece as well. And then, of course, as we discuss, advancing Nevada North and de-risking that project as well. That'll help our valuation for sure.
We have talked a lot about the projects and the company. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your team, the ones that are managing this and are helping with the project.
Yeah, so there's been an interesting evolution of the team. So we started Integra Resources as basically the former Integra Gold team, deciding to stay together because we love working together. We enjoy ourselves working together. And so as the team has had to evolve from development into production, we've had to bring on additional talent. And over the past year, we've added a lot of talent to the mix. We needed talent that was technically adept at not only building mines, but operating mines. That's something we did not have internally. We needed talent from a permitting perspective. Not that we didn't have permitting talent, but we needed, obviously, to put together a more robust permitting team with the experience of actually delivering permits in the Western U.S. And then finally, from the financial management perspective, our financing team led by Andre Saint-Germain she's phenomenal at what she does. However, we needed a group of people who knew how to manage cash flows from a mining operation. We didn't have that expertise internally. So what we did was we went out and purposely went for people with these different skill sets. And so what you see right now at Integra is a lot of the former Silvercrest development and operating team. Silvercrest mining was taken over by Core in, I believe, January or February of this year. So there was this great team that had just not only built this operation at Chispas, but were managing it quite well from an operational perspective. We literally took, that team and transplanted it into us. And so that you see a lot of that led by Cliff Lafleur, who is our chief operating officer. He was the person who kind of managed that for Silvercrest successfully. That project the company was taken over for close to $2 billion. So they had great experience. So it's this great mix of talent. And then on the permitting end, again, we needed somebody who, I'm going to say has, been there, done that.
Yeah.
From a permitting perspective. Dale Kerner from Perpetua, and you saw what's happened to Perpetua mining in Idaho. It's the largest project in the last, I don't know how many years to receive its permits in the U.S. Well, Dale delivered on that permit for them, or was part of the team leadership that delivered for them. So once they received their permit, Dale came to work for us and lead the permitting team. And so, again, just to summarize, it's a bit of the old Integra Gold team, if you will, mixed in with some very new, very capable team members. And the team is working so well together right now. I'm really proud of what they've accomplished this year.
Perfect. Thank you very much, George, for speaking with us and for talking about Integra Resources. Maybe to finish and as a summary, for someone that entering in Integra today, what are the catalysts or the news that could expect over the next 12 months?
Yeah, so the next 12 months, I think you pointed out earlier, we've got so much to deliver to our shareholders in 2026. But the big ones, the big one that's a week away is the Delamar feasibility study, and that's imminent, right? And then in the new year, expect some news on permitting and our permitting timeline for Delamar, and how that could potentially be accelerated relative to past timelines, which we've talked about. And then there's production and cash flow news from Florida Canyon regarding our gold actual production and cash flow generated from that production. On a quarterly basis, that's something we have to do throughout the year in 2026. And then there'll be news regarding the feasibility study update on Florida Canyon sometime in mid-year next year. And I think that's really going to showcase what Florida Canyon can do, just not just for the next 5 years, but maybe 8 or 9 years potentially. That'll be a pretty good number as well when we put that out. And then finally ending the year at Nevada North with a study of its own. What is the production capacity at Nevada North? What can it produce? What the timeline would look like? So again, lots of news in 2026. It's going to be a busy year for us.
Yeah, it will be. Thank you very much for your time and for being in the program. It's been a real pleasure to have Integra Resources. We'll be following the company and all of these updates that you said and all of these studies over the next year. And I really hope to speak with you soon, to share a little bit all of this news.
Thank you, Amadeo. I really look forward to being back on your show. This was a pleasure for me.
Disclaimer: the content in Charlando de Minas is not an investment advice. Amadeo Bonet and his guests are not investment advisors. The authors may have interest in the companies mentioned in this publication. They may also have bias and not be impartial. The information in this publication and all the others in Charlando de Minas is impersonal by nature and should be considered as an entertainment product. The minimum risk of any investment mentioned in this video is 100% of the capital. Before to make any investment decision, contact to a financial or investment advisor or someone qualified with experience. These broadcasts are a narrative of my learnings in the world of commodities and mining investment. In this podcast, we will try to bring experts, professionals, and companies. If you like it, please subscribe. I am Abel Bonet. Welcome to Charlando de Minas.